Let me tell you, I was waist deep in my own lake on my own land, just trying to squeeze a little piece out of a Saturday morning. You ever have that feeling like the world finally shuts up for a minute and lets you breathe? That was me. Right up until a woman I'd never seen in my life comes marching down my dock, shoes way too fancy for the mud, aiming her iPhone at me like she's a cop on a raid, and shouts, "You're being fined $2,000 for swimming." Yeah, 2 grand just for enjoying my own water. That's how my little slice of heaven turned into ground zero for the wildest fight of my life. She introduced herself with all the charm of a parking ticket. Lakewood Estates, HOA. You're in violation of shared water use per resolution 2019, she tells me, waving a clipboard around like it's a court order. I'm still dripping blinking lake water out of my eyes, and I can't decide if I'm being punked or hazed as the new guy. She doesn't even flinch, starts reading me the riot act, snapping photos for her records. I tell her as calmly as I can, "Ma'am, this is my lake, my property." She doesn't care. According to her, the HOA reclassified my private lake as communal water resources. And get this, she says all residents are now subject to usage restrictions. Like I just bought a timeshare instead of a cabin. I'd been here 6 months, just far enough past a brutal divorce to start patching up my life, finding some quiet out in the sticks, trading city noise for birds and water and sky. Remote work as an environmental consultant let me live anywhere, and the cabin felt like a fresh start. That morning the world was perfectly still until it wasn't. I remember thinking, who is this woman and what planet does she think she's on? She tells me I'll get a citation in 72 hours, formal notice and everything. Heels clicking away like a countdown clock as she leaves. I stand there wrapped in my towel, heart thumping in my chest for reasons that had nothing to do with cold water. I'd seen her before I realized behind the wheel of a black Mercedes SUV, the kind that costs more than I used to make in a year. I never thought she'd be the type to come after me with fines and phony regulations. The moment I got back to my cabin, I started pulling property records on my phone. Rural internet be damned. Took a while, but when that map finally loaded, it was all right there. My deed, my survey lines, my lake sitting squarely inside my property. No ambiguity, no question. And yet 3 days later, the letter came official, HOA letterhead, a $2,000 fine, and $350 more in administrative fees. The violation: unauthorized use of shared water resources during restricted hours. The justification: that same ghostly resolution 2019 that didn't exist in any public record. I was mad. Madder than I'd been in years. This was no misunderstanding. This was a shakedown. I started digging county recorder's office HOA filing state property law. Nowhere, and I mean nowhere, could an HOA just decide my private lake belonged to everyone. Any real change like that would have to go through the county, require my consent, and get written into the deed. I scoured every meeting minute from the HOA's website. Best I found was a tabled motion from 2019 about expanding jurisdiction. Never voted on, never passed. That's when it hit me. This wasn't stupidity. It was strategy weaponizing confusion, hoping I'd just pay up and shut up. For years, I'd let things slide, work, marriage, you name it. I wasn't about to let someone with a clipboard rewrite my life again. I fired off a formal dispute to the HOA board, demanded to see this so-called Resolution 2019, board vote records, county filings, the works. Their reply: your request has been noted. Failure to remit payment will result in additional penalties and a lien on your property. Signed by the president herself, Sharon Blackwood. Yeah, I memorized the name. If she wanted a fight, she'd get one, just not the one she was used to. I went full environmental consultant mode, tearing through records, comparing old plat maps to new surveys. That's when I noticed a note tabled motion to expand HOA jurisdiction never passed. Evidence, baby. And that night, as if on cue, my neighbor Hugh wandered by. Hugh was retired, big-hearted, been here 15 years. Helped me move in without asking a thing about my messy past. I showed him the violation letter. He just sighed. Sharon got you too, huh? Turns out she'd been running the same con for years. $5,000 fines for paint colors, threats for RVs and garages, bogus violations for anyone who pushed back. She's got lawyers. People get scared most just pay or leave, Hugh said. And meanwhile, she's driving a new Mercedes while the HOA reserve fund is always depleted. He handed me copies of old financial records he'd kept just in case. Curiosity gnawed at me, so I checked the community group online. There I was, front and center. Sharon had posted my photo, called me out for disregarding quiet hours and disturbing neighbors. Comments piled up, some folks backing her, others confused, a few outright questioning her. But something smelled off, like too many supporters using the same writing style popping up at the same time. Fake accounts wouldn't surprise me. I called the previous owner, Mr. Donovan. He laughed when I explained I sold that place to get away from her. She fined me every month, mailbox, grass, you name it. Check your survey against the original plat. I think she's been claiming land the HOA never actually controlled. Sure enough, the original HOA map showed my lake wasn't ever under their jurisdiction. I emailed the board again, demanding a hearing and access to financial records, citing my legal rights as a homeowner. Sharon's reply: "You are making a serious mistake. Continued obstruction will result in escalated penalties. This is your final warning." Defensive quick, she was nervous. Good. Hugh showed up with a box of receipts, emails, board minutes, every invoice from Sharon's husband's company, Blackwood renovation, all way overpriced. A deck repair for $12,000 that should have been $6,000. Every single job, no competitive bidding, all approved by Sharon herself. "This isn't bad management, it's fraud," I told Hugh. Tried to say that once at a board meeting. He said, "Got a violation notice the next week. She pushes people out." It was bigger than my $2,000 fine. Now it was about a system built to fleece anyone who stood up. I hired my own surveyor, totally independent. He spent 2 days with GPS marking every inch. His report: lake is 100% within your boundaries. HOA line is 23 feet from the water's edge. They have no claim. I took that to the county, asked for every HOA filing on record. Nothing from 2019, nothing expanding jurisdiction. And financial records, HOA reserves dropping like a rock, $75,000 to $43,000 to $28,000 with no explanation. The county clerk told me 6 complaints in 18 months, all about aggressive fines. No one's ever brought enough proof for an investigation. That was about to change. My lawyer, Andrea, looked through my evidence survey records, emails. This is textbook ultra vires acting outside authority. The fine is void. But fighting will take money and guts. You ready for a long fight? I thought of the families pushed out, the missing funds, the years of bullying. What if I can prove a pattern of fraud? Then we're talking criminal charges, she said. But you'll need something: direct admissions, bank records, witnesses. So I set a trap, emailed Sharon asking for a face-to-face to resolve things amicably. She took the bait, insisted I bring my checkbook. What she didn't know, I had a voice recorder in my shirt pocket, one-party consent state, perfectly legal. When we met, Sharon tried to bluff, pulled out a photocopied resolution, no signatures, nothing on file at the county. I laid down my survey, pointed out the law. She bristled, then exploded, threatened me with weekly inspections, fines for every blade of grass, a lien if I didn't pay. "Running an HOA isn't free," she barked. "I take consulting fees for the work I do." Her secretary's eyes went wide. I pressed, "Did the board approve your compensation?" Sharon's control snapped. "You want war? I have lawyers. You'll lose." I stood up. "I have documentation and a recording of everything you just said." She went white as a sheet. "You recorded this?" I just smiled, walked out as she called security. Uploaded the audio to 3 cloud accounts before I'd even started my truck. That night, Hugh and I got a group together, 5 households who'd been targeted, fined, bullied, Stories poured out fines for kids playing in the yard, for paint colors, for asking too many questions. Sharon's threats went beyond money. She'd called child services, spread rumors, tanked reputations. But together, people found their courage. Claire, a single mom in IT, volunteered to prove Sharon's sock puppet accounts. A retired contractor agreed to compare invoice quotes. Others wrote affidavits. Andrea filed a formal complaint with the state. At the annual HOA meeting, I presented everything survey audio records. Sharon tried to stop me, called it harassment, called for security. But the room was with us now. Hugh moved for a vote of no confidence. 61 hands rose, none in Sharon's favor. She tried to walk out with her lawyer, but not before invoking the fifth. The motions passed. Sharon was out. An independent audit was ordered. Every fine under her tenure voided. A week later, the forensic accountant's findings hit like a bomb. Not $47,000, missing $127,000. Overbilling, kickbacks from the HOA's law firm, a whole criminal enterprise. The Attorney General swooped in. Sharon and her cronies were indicted, wire fraud, embezzlement, conspiracy. At trial, evidence piled up, my recordings, financials, testimony from families, even emails instructing the law firm to cultivate conflict harvest fees. The verdict, guilty on every count. Sharon lost everything, car, house, freedom. The restitution fund paid back every victim. Hugh became HOA president, Claire the treasurer. Quarterly audits, transparent bids, and ombudsman, all written into the new bylaws. I got my $2,000 back plus damages, but it wasn't about the money. It was about finally seeing people unafraid. And you know what? The next autumn, I swam in my lake with Hugh, Claire, the whole neighborhood just laughing, music, playing, kids splashing. The air felt lighter. Property values are up 12%, Hugh joked. That's not why we did this, I told him. He just smiled. Looking back, I almost gave up, almost let fear and exhaustion win. But if folks like us don't stand up, who will? Sometimes the price of silence is way higher than the cost of courage. Would you have risked everything to do what's right or stayed quiet just to keep the peace? I guess that's what I really want to know. Go on, drop your thoughts in the comments. Ever tangled with an HOA tyrant or seen justice finally win out? Tell me your story. Let's keep the conversation going, because sometimes it only takes one voice to break the silence.